the very first time, hi, I'm dentist Saloni Jain and we make videos related to dentistry on our channel. So in this video, we are going to start with pemphigoid. Now let me remind you that we have already made video on pemphigus part 1 and part 2 wherein we have discussed in detail about pemphigus, the various types of pemphigus also. So do check that video out. I'll give the link in the description box and also pop an I button, so that you get a basic understanding and also the differentiating points, okay? Though I'm going to tell you in detail the difference between pemphigus and pemphigoid, but still if you watch that video first, I think the concepts are going to be more clear. So in this video, we'll start with pemphigoid. Now see, pemphigoid is again because as we have read in our pemphigus also that it is derived from the word pemphix, right? So the pemphix word ultimately means blisters, okay? So pemphigoid is also in a way similar to pemphigus, but the differences are definitely there, which we'll see in the video. Now pemphigoid is of several types, okay? And there are three types of pemphigoid, namely your bullous pemphigoid, which we'll see in detail in this video. Then you have mucous membrane pemphigoid, and third is gestational pemphigoid, that is seen during pregnancy or usually seen in the pregnant ladies. Now that is of not that much important to us, but the two main forms of pemphigoid which are important to us are the bullous pemphigoid and the mucous membrane pemphigoid. So in this video we'll start with bullous pemphigoid. Now bullous pemphigoid is also known as, or the other names for bullous pemphigoid is parapemphigus or aging pemphigus. Now para, now when you use the word para as a prefix in front of a word, so para means nothing, that is resembling to or near to, alongside, okay? So it is nothing but parapemphigus, that is resembling pemphigus. That's why it is also known as parapemphigus. And aging pemphigus, why? You will get to know later when we discuss the clinical features, because it commonly affects or it is mostly seen in the elderly age groups. So that's why it is known as aging pemphigus. Clear? Now it was introduced, let's see the introduction. So it was described by Lever in 1953, and the tagline of the disease, the tagline as we always say, which sums up whole of the disease, goes as chronic autoimmune subepidermal blistering and tense bulla of the skin, tense bulla skin disease, rarely involving mucous membrane with antibodies targeting components of the basement membrane. See, I'll explain. Chronic, a longer duration of time. Autoimmune. Now this, by now time, if you have been following my videos, you must be aware of the word autoimmune. So autoimmune is nothing like your body's immunity is to protect you against the antigens, the foreign antigens. But when the body, the immune system mistakenly attacks your own healthy cells, that's known as autoimmunity. Okay. Now subepidermal. This subepidermal blistering word is a distinguishing point. First distinguishing point you will see, because if you see my pemphigus video, we have dealt with the word there as intraepidermal, but here it is subepidermal. Now here that where we discuss pemphigus, intraepidermal means within the epidermis, okay? But subepidermal is nothing, that is below the epidermis or in between the epidermis and dermis. So the basic thing which you get to know here is that your epithelium or your skin has these three layers. The outermost layer being the epidermis, then you have your dermis, and then you have your hypodermis, which actually anchors your skin to the muscles. This is the basic, okay? Now, subepidermal blistering as you always know, blisters are nothing but bubbles, and they are of two types definitely, that are your vesicles and bulla. Again I am revising. Vesicle is a fluid elevated lesion less than 1 cm in diameter, whereas bullas are fluid elevated lesions more than 1 cm in diameter. Okay. Also a separate video have been made explaining the vesicles and bulla and the classification of vesicobullous lesions. So do check that video out if you haven't, for which the link I'll give in the description box and also pop an I button. So it is a chronic autoimmune subepidermal blistering and tense bullae skin disease, rarely involving the mucous membrane. So it rarely involves your oral cavity or oral mucous membrane with antibodies targeting components of the basement membrane. This line will be clear from the etiopathogenesis. Now a basic thing which you need to know here is, like you know, there are three layers. The outermost being your epidermis, below that is your dermis, and then hypodermis. Now you also know this, your epidermis is composed of several layers like your stratum basale, corneum, granulosum, spinosum, etc. And you also know this fact for a fact that your stratum basale, the basal cells in the stratum basale are attached to the basement membrane. So the epidermis and the dermis is distinguished by a basement membrane in between, and the basal cells are attached to the basement membrane by the means of hemidesmosomes. Okay. So what happens is, so there are specific or there are recognized IgG autoantibodies. Okay, since autoimmunity here occurs here, so there are your IgG autoantibodies, immunoglobulin G autoantibodies, which are specific for hemidesmosomal bullous pemphigoid antigens. Okay, so your body develops IgG auto antibodies which are specific for the hemidesmosomal bullous pemphigoid antigens, specifically your bullous pemphigoid 230, also known as bullous pemphigoid antigen 1, and bullous pemphigoid 180, also known as bullous pemphigoid antigen 2. So specific antibodies develop. Now what happens is, these IgG antibodies, autoantibodies, they bind to the skin basement membrane, as I have told. That is in between your dermis and epidermis. So it binds to the skin basement membrane and it activates the complement and inflammatory mediators. The activation of the complement in the mediator plays a critical role in attracting the inflammatory cells to the basement membrane, and these cells release proteases which degrade the hemidesmosomes and lead to blister formation. Please, I would highly request again that you please watch the pemphigus video. There, if you see there is a separate video for the etiopathogenesis, so it will be more clear from them. It's almost the same thing, that autoantibodies develop and then it attracts the inflammatory mediators on the basement membrane and there the blistering occurs. It's almost the same, okay? So this is the basic intro and etiopathogenesis of bullous pemphigoid. Now starting with the clinical features, so as we've already read in the other names, it is known as aging pemphigus. So this is the reason because this is the disease of elderly. That is 80% of the patients. So when it was seen, so researches were done, so it was seen that 80% of the patients were over 60 years of age. So it is a disease of 60 plus individual, though it can occur early in life, but the ratio, as you can see, is 20% to 80%, right? So the ratio is this way. That's why it is a disease of the elderly, and it commonly affects or manifests in the elderly, that is above 60 years of age. Also, there is no gender predilection, that is males and females are equally affected by the condition. There is no gender distribution. The cutaneous lesions begin as, so when it involves, now you also know the tagline we have read, it rarely affects your oral mucous membrane. So it starts as, or first manifestation is seen on the skin. So cutaneous lesions begin as non-specific rash, commonly on the limbs, okay, which appear urticarial or eczematous, which may persist for several weeks or months before the ultimate appearance of vesicubullous lesions. Okay, so here what you say is that the earliest manifestation is seen in the form of rashes which appear on your skin of the limbs like hands, legs, etc. So how are these rashes now? They appear urticarial or eczematous. Now what these words means, like I'll pop a picture so that it's more clear, but the basic meaning of both these words combinedly means that they are nothing but red small rashes which appear, which are very itchy in appearance, dry scaly patches, and also sometimes oozing patches which ooze out liquid and like that. So these are such patches, such rashes are the earliest manifestations which persist for either several weeks or months before the actual appearance of the vesicles and the bullas. Okay, the vesicles and the bullas arise in these prodromal skin as well as in the normal skin. So it is either appearing on the normal skin, like it also appears on the normal skin. Otherwise, it also is preceded by such thing, or it also appears on such skin. In addition to the occurrence in skin, abdomen is frequently affected too. So abdomen, in accordance with the skin of the limbs, actually occurrence in the skin, that is of the limbs, abdomen is also affected. These vesicles and bullas are thick walled and may remain intact for some days. Okay, so they are thick walled and they remain intact for some days, or they may rupture some days. Rupture does not always occur. Okay, so rupture does not always occur, although when it does, it leaves a raw eroded area which heals rapidly. Simple line. Okay, now moving on to the oral manifestations. So again, as we told, that it has got its rare manifestations in the mucous membrane, so oral lesions occur far less frequently. Okay, 10 to 45% cases in various reported series. So it ranges from 10 to 45%, like it may occur, but rare involvement or rare chances are there. Oral lesions are more commonly seen in the next type, that is your mucous membrane pemphigoid. So you will see there, but here the oral lesions are actually very rare or less frequent. But if they occur, they are similar to the lesions occurring in mucous membrane pemphigoids, gingival lesions. So in mucous membrane pemphigoid, when we read, you will get to know the oral manifestations there. So the lesions, if they occur in bullous pemphigoid, they are going to be similar to those. There is much of the gingival involvement and it is very painful. So if the gingival lesions occur, so there is a lot of involvement. A majority of the gingiva is involved sometimes and it's very painful. Gingival tissues appear extremely erythematous, that is swollen, reddish, and may desquamate as the result of even minor frictional trauma. Like even you rub, so they are going to shed off or scale off. Okay, desquamate, that is they are going to get removed or shed off or scale off. The vesicles and ultimate erosions, like they are going to start with your vesicles, which are going to become your ultimate erosions or ulcerations or bullas, may develop not only on the gingival tissues but in other places also, such as your buccal mucosa, your tongue, palate, floor of the mouth. Okay, so these are the oral manifestations which are rare, and these are the clinical features. Okay, in combined, so these are total of your clinical features. Okay, so moving to the last part and the remaining two topics, that is your histological features and treatment. So in histological features, now since you are aware of the disease now, so in histological features, what you are going to see is intact or relatively normal epithelium with subepidermal or subepithelial split and no evidence of acantholysis of the epithelial cells. Okay, now this is very clear because we have been reading in the tagline also, in the clinical features also. So everywhere we know that the epithelium is going to be intact. Since this has a name that is known as subepidermal, so it is going to be, the lesion is going to be in between the epidermis and the dermis. So definitely the epithelium is going to be intact and there is going to be a split which is going to be subepithelial. Vesicle contains fibrous exudate mixed with occasional inflammatory cells. Okay. When you do electron microscopy, you find, so in contrast to the mucous membrane pemphigoid, which we will see in the later videos, basement membrane remains attached to the connective tissue. Okay, so in mucous membrane pemphigoid, you will get to know that your basement membrane is not attached to the underlying connective tissue. Okay, it's relatively attached to the epithelium, but there you will get to know in detail. But in contrast to the mucous membrane pemphigoid, in bullous pemphigoid, जो basement membrane है, that remains attached to the connective tissue. Okay, and primary changes, they first appear in the connective tissue where the blood vessels show alterations, and also the basement membrane shows thickening with interruptions of the continuity. Slight interruptions are there. If you do a immunofluorescence study, that is either direct, indirect, so you're going to see the circulating IgG autoantibodies or antibodies directed against the basement membrane antigens. We have seen in the etiopathogenesis. So the whole of the histological features are nothing but the introduction, the clinical features which you have studied, it is just subjected to that. Moving on to the last part, that is treatment. So the goal of the therapy or the goal of treatment is to decrease anyhow the blister formations or the erosions and to promote their healing. So by excluding the underlying cause, you promote this or this goal is achieved. Therapy should be individualized for each patient, keeping in mind the pre-existing conditions and the other patient-specific factors. Most patients require a therapy from 6 to 16 months, after which many patients experience long-term remissions of diseases. Like it's a long process. The treatment is a long one, like years go in treatment. Also, topical steroids if there is any skin rash or skin lesion, and if in the oral lesions also, so topical steroids or intralesional steroids can be definitely used. Immunosuppressive drugs like your azathioprine 50 to 100 mg per day, cyclophosphamide 100 to 200 mg per day, and others like Dapsone and tetracycline can also be given or administered, but the main goal is to anyhow reduce the blister formation by any way and to promote the healing of blisters. Okay, if this is done by any of the means, then your disease is cured. Okay, so this is all about bullous pemphigoid. In the next video, we will be dealing with the other form, most common form, that is your mucous membrane pemphigoid, and then a separate video will be made wherein we will discuss the differentiating points with pemphigus and pemphigoid, or pemphigus vulgaris and bullous pemphigoid, or pemphigus vulgaris with mucous membrane pemphigoid. So I'll make a different video to make you understand, to make you more clear about the differences. So this is all for this video. I hope that you got the topic and you understood it. And if you did, then please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Also hit the bell icon so that you're notified every time we upload a video. Stay tuned for more videos.